Hi all, welcome to my shop. We have the wing of the Messerschmitt 109 F by 3Dlabprint, the large one. As you can see, it's a wonderful aircraft. Again, it's a very good design from our friends at 3Dlabprint. So, but just I will explain in this video about my modification to the flaps, because I didn't like from the beginning. Actually, I didn't like the idea of using two servos for each side of the wing. So I was thinking about, and I come up with a solution. And as you can see, I'm just having one servo on each side of the wing, and that one servo is driving all three pieces of flaps together. They are coupled together. The radiator flap, the top part and the bottom part, they are coupled with a slot and pin system originally from the original design. What I did is to couple the top radiator flap to the wing flap, so that when the servo drives this radiator top flap, it also drives with the link system from here the wing flap too. What I did is actually I did two different modifications. One is much easier to install, but honestly I do have some concerns for long-term use of it. The other one is more robust system, but it's more complicated to install into it. But both of the methods I tried in my first flights. So far both of them are working fine. I will put all the files in my Cults Expat Modeler account. I'll publish them there, and whichever you want to choose, you can choose, and you can print them in the same package. Also, there will be some servo covers here, both to glue in like this, also for screwing, so that if you want to remove later on, you can make them removable with screws. For both of them I will explain now in detail, but both of them can be installed after you install the flaps, which I did mine exactly like that. I installed both of them after gluing all the hinges and the flaps in position. So it's a retrofit, more or less, but I should tell you, it's much easier to install them before you install the flaps into the model. So here are my alternate modifications to couple the flaps. This one is a simple solution. Let's say just one piece, nothing at all. You don't need anything else, just you need to glue this inside the flap. And these two parts are the second more complicated, but in my opinion more robust system. In one of my flaps, one side of my wing, I have this system installed. In the other, I have this system installed. So if anyone fails during my flights, of course I will immediately update my post and notify. So far both are working perfectly, and apart from flying, I did some force tests, push them to the limits, and both of them are working fine so far. So for explanation, I'll start with a simple one. In basic principle, that what I did was in this design, the main problem is the two flaps. This is the wing flap section, and this is the radiator flap section. Just to explain, I just printed small parts to show. And the main problem is the hinge lines of both flaps are different. The radiator flap hinge line is somewhere over here, and the wing flap hinge line is over there. They are offset. They are not exactly concentric. They are not in the same line. So what happens is they move differently, independently. So you cannot just physically couple them together. Instead, what we need is what we call pin and slot system, pin and track system, whichever you prefer to call. On this flap, wing flap, this section is quite strong because there's kind of a spar-like structure here from the original design, which produces a D-box over here, and also there's a sub-spar on the back side, on the rear side here. So this I make use of this area to put my modifications in this side, and when you glue them in, they are really strong, so they can transfer all the loads until the hinge this side, which is from that point on, it's very strong structure. And on the other side, which is the radiator flap, here what we see is the designers, they made a cross braces here between the lower skin and the top skin of the radiator flap, and this slot here is a very strong box, which I'm making again use of that area. what happens is the pin goes in there, which transfers movement from one side to the other side, while it can easily slide in and up to some point rotate, because this pin is not perfectly round, it's just a square with chamfered edges. So up to some point we can have a differential rotation between two flaps. So if you want to install this, it's very simple. You just glue this in here. I would suggest, it's not very critical, but I would suggest when you glue this in, keep this pin alignment parallel to the hinge line. That will make things better, but you don't have to. Mine is not, to say the least. So we just glue this in, and this pin goes into this side, and they make the flaps work together. My concern with this, it's very simple. However, my concern is that you have to print it very carefully. You have to have very good layer adhesion between during your prints, because with this design, all the load comes as a shear force, which can make the layers separate from each other if the layer adhesion is not very good. So be careful about this. And if you are not sure, the other system is better, which I'll explain right now. This system is more complicated. We have two parts, and there's one part, it's just like a rib, and there's a slot on it. This goes right here, exactly as the other side. The glue is in this part, and the other part that also goes in here. These have sides, by the way. One for the right, one for the left, and you should mix them together. So this goes into this slot. It's kind of a trapezoid shape, and the system works like we need to put something into this part to act as a pin. In very simple, how I designed is to use a metric 3 bolt. See here we have a metric 3 bolt, which is I think it's 3 by total. This is 18 millimeters long. Sorry, 21 millimeter long. So it's not, the length is not that much critical, just it should be enough to reach this track from this side of the flap, the radiator flap. This part, it should reach the track on the other side. That's what matters. This is metric 3. The hole is designed more or less for metric 3, 2.5 millimeter, but I believe you can also use for our American friends, they can use 440 bolts. I believe it will work. I would strongly suggest using a tap to tap the hole. It will make things much easier. I'm just tapping it right now. Actually, this was a new print. So if you tap the plastic, it will make, as I said, things easier and better, in my opinion. So after tapping, according to your screw size or bolt size, you can just put the bolt in until the end, and then you can choose to glue this permanently into the system, or you can choose not to glue it and keep it removable, because if you have a long enough screwdriver or Allen driver, actually what you can do is you can reach the system. This is how it fits here. You can reach, if you have a long enough driver, as I said, you can reach the system from the other side of the radiator flap and either adjust, fine-tune, or totally remove the screw. It can also help you to install the system if you already glued your flaps into your model. So, but the basic idea is this is the pin side and this is the track side. They go each other, and just like the before, they move, they transfer the force to rotate the flaps, while it's free to move, slide on the slot without binding. One more thing I would suggest, if you decide not to make it removable, then I would say it's better to put some, especially if you are using 440 bolts, because they are more coarse, the threads are more sharp. Maybe it might be a better idea to fill in these threads, which I did with a medium viscosity cyano, and clean it up so that the threads actually they don't dig into the track over here, so that in the future there will be any binding. So it's just as a safety, but if you want to make this removable, then of course definitely you shouldn't do such thing. As you can see, if you haven't installed your flaps, easy. Oh, one more thing, sorry. If your bolt is like this, which is, you know, wider than this is, if I remember, it should be 5 millimeters. Yes, if your bolt head is more than 5 millimeters, as the case here, you may also consider grinding this, or better, if you have access, I didn't have, use just long set screws, not the screws that doesn't have even bolt head, so that it won't push the flap skin, it won't hurt or damage the flap skins here. One more thing, okay, how to install this. If you haven't installed your flaps into your model, it's very easy. As you can see, just you will install these parts together, and while you are gluing your hinges to the flap, you just put them together and you glue your hinges. They will work perfectly together. But if you have already installed your flaps into your wing, which was my case actually, then you have to be a bit more creative. How I did mine was, on this side of the flap, I lowered the flap down, and first of all glued this track inside here with this method, and then on this side I didn't glue it first. I just put it from here again, just offset, making some offset, so lowering this flap this time and keeping this up. I put this inside and pushed as far backwards as I can, until while I'm holding it with a tweezer, just like this. And then I bring the flaps together and push the screw bolt into its track, and slowly by slowly, working like this, I pulled it into the track until this part is flush with the flap skin, and then I applied cyano to the edges to permanently glue this part into the flap. So it's a bit tricky. It can be done, but yeah, it's a bit tricky. If you choose not to glue this in the screw, then it's easier. And if you have a long enough driver, you just glue first this part, the plastic part, and then you put the screw from the other side in. But I prefer to do it like this. The simple solution is even easier to install. In this case, you just have to make them offset somehow, so you can access from the side. You put this inside and hold it with a tweezer to go down as much back as possible, and then make the flaps aligned again. And while you are holding them together, you just pull this back so that it goes into the slot, and align it, make your necessary adjustments, check it if it's working or not, and then when you're sure it's working, you just glue this part to the flap. That's it. Thank you for watching, and if you do print and do make these modifications to your Messerschmitt 109, please let me know how it worked, and if you need some modifications, special fine-tuning for different sizes of pins or whatever you need, just leave a comment either here on this video or to my Cults account, and I will do my best to find a solution for that. Thank you.